Hi guys, it's Mr. Red Guy 92 posting another video today. Um, Today we're going to be talking about UFC 145, or actually 144. Beg my pardon. UFC 144 with Frankie Edgar defending his title against Ben Henderson. Um, it's going to be a very interesting battle between the two fighters. And Frankie Edgar, he's definitely paved, put a legacy around himself with the victories that he has, claimed over the course of his career. The trilogy with Gray Maynard was a very good one. He was able to end that on a winning note, stopping Gray Maynard in a knockout fashion, and he beat BJ Penn twice. So Frankie Edgar's legit, definitely for sure. I'm not saying he's not, in the slightest bit. He's definitely deserves where he is right now, and definitely think that he deserves to be considered one of the top fighters in the world, especially in the pound for pound rankings. I would put him up there, maybe number 4, number 3. Due to the inactivity of um, both Silva and GSP. So I definitely put him up there. But this is probably, it's a safe bet to say that this is his toughest test yet, facing a guy like Ben Henderson. Ben Henderson is a very big lightweight fighter, and he needs to definitely know how to weather the storm of Ben Henderson. Ben Henderson is a very skilled fighter in all areas, wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu, all sorts of issues that he can bring to the table for Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar had a tough time in his 2 fights in the second and third fight against Gray Maynard. He lost to Gray Maynard in their first battle. So, I think that holds some merit value. The fact that in the second fight and in the third fight, Maynard was able to hurt Edgar, and Maynard isn't really that much bigger than Maynard. Edgar's probably the smallest lightweight that's still fighting, but Ben Henderson is much bigger than Gray Maynard. There's definitely a size disadvantage for Edgar, but he does have one. He does have a lot of heart when he fights, and everything like that. But I think that this is definitely Frankie Edgar's toughest test yet. He has tough task ahead of him dealing with the pace that Ben Henderson brings. He's no slouch. He's been around a long time. He's fought in the WEC. Was a very good fighter there. Fought 2 great battles with Donald Cerrone. Fought that fight with Clay Guida, toe to toe, good battle. Most people weren't able to see it. I was able to see it. Fortunately for me, I was able to see that fight on Facebook, I believe. I can't really remember that far back, but I'm pretty sure it was on Facebook, and I was able to see that. It was a very good fight, but Ben Henderson definitely won. There was no doubt about that. Definitely, this fight has some high. It's going to be definitely a high-paced fight. It's great that the UFC is going back to Japan. I think that is awesome. That they're bringing the UFC back to Japan for this Saturday's fights, the 25th, I believe. Also on the card, we have Quentin Rampage Jackson versus Ryan Bader. Rampage is coming off a title loss against John Jones, and Bader is coming off a win against Jason Brills, but he then also lost to John Jones and Tito Ortiz, consecutive submission losses. So, definitely a huge fight for both fighters. It's kind of a coming of age fight for Ryan Bader, trying to get a big victory over a big name like Rampage would definitely put him back in the mix. and Rampage really needs to prove that he is still worthy, a worthy opponent for, a worthy light heavyweight rather for the UFC. Um, it's interesting because Rampage just he puts on exciting fights, and I don't think he'll ever be a champ again. But I would like to see him stick around. I still think that there's fights for him. I was reading an article today that was put on, I think it was on Bleacher Report, about how Rampage should retire if he wins. I mean, it'd be great for him to go out on a winning note, but I still think that there are a lot of nice fights for him out there. A rematch with um, Forrest Griffin would be interesting. That was a very close fight. There's definitely still fights for him out there, no doubt about that. But it's his decision. A huge win over Ryan Bader, a knockout victory in Japan, would be a picture perfect ending to his career. And you never know. So this quite could possibly be the last fight in Rampage's career. And then you have in the third bout, you have Yoshihiro Akiyama versus Jake Shields. Not too crazy about either one of these fighters. Jake Shields, obviously, former number one welterweight contender for the title, fought George St. Pierre in April, and didn't really have much to put up against GSP. He lost his father. Father passed away, and then he took a fight. It was 2 weeks before his fight with Jake Ellenberger that his father died, and he lost that fight TKO. So it's been a tough year for Jake Shields. I'd like to see him get the victory due to the tough year that he's had. It's never fun for anybody to lose somebody that is a big part of their life, especially he was a big part of his career too. He was his manager and everything. So it's unfortunate that happened for Jake Shields. I think he's definitely going to rebound over Akiyama. Akiyama's no slouch, a great judo fighter. Great in Japan. He's got a definite advantage fighting in Japan. So as far as that home field stuff goes, I definitely see Akiyama having an advantage. But Jake Shields has also fought in Japan too. So you never know. It could go either way. But I think that Jake Shields is more superior on the ground. If the fight were to go to the ground, Shields would definitely have it. Great jiu-jitsu, great submission specialist, for sure. So that would be nice to see. So I get Shields winning that fight. I'm kind of gonna go. I kind of went through an overview of the fights, and I'm kind of gonna go backwards on my predictions on all the way up. But another fight that I'd like to throw in the mix here is Joe Lozon versus Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis fought Ben Henderson and beat him for the lightweight title in the WEC back in the WEC days with the Blue Octagon. I miss that fight organization so much. I'm glad those guys are on the UFC, but I loved watching those fights on Versus and all that. Todd Harris did a great job and everything. But anyway, that was a huge fight. He had that crazy kick that I think I've seen probably about 80,000 times over and over again. Joe Lozon is always an underdog, and he always steps up to the plate, no matter who he's fighting. Beat Jens Pulver long time ago when Jens Pulver was on top of the world. That was probably one of the biggest upsets in UFC history at that time. Beat Melvin Gillard recently. He was a huge underdog in that fight too. And he's a huge underdog in this fight. I like Pettis a lot, but I love how scrappy Joe Lozon is. The way he fights is definitely fun to watch and fun to see. He finishes fights. He doesn't go in there to grind it out. He goes in there to finish. So I got Joe Lozon over Anthony Pettis. Jake Shields over Yoshihiro Akiyama. Another fight on the card is Chet Congo versus Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt has always been overweight, always been undertrained, always been just outclassed. Chet Congo is a far superior fighter than Mark Hunt. Anything can happen, but I'm definitely going with Chip Congo in that one. So Shields, Lozon, and Congo. And as for the co-main event, depending on which Rampage shows up, I think Rampage is going to want to really come out for this one due to the fact that it's in Japan. It's going to be a really great homecoming, so to speak, for him, even though he's not Japanese, but he's got a great fan base in Japan due to his Pride Days. So it's definitely going to be, something to see. And he wants to put on a good show. He wants to redeem himself after that loss to John Jones. So I'm going to definitely say that Rampage is going to come out with a victory. And for the final fight, I'm going to say that Benson Henderson will be crowned the new UFC lightweight champion. I really like Frankie Edgar. I really do. I think he's a great fighter. But the troubles that he has had with Gray Maynard, the trouble that he did have with Gray Maynard, so to speak. If Gray Maynard could hit Frankie Edgar in the first minutes of the second and third fight like that, Benson Henderson is going to do just as worse, just as much damage to him early, and Benson Henderson's not going to let him weather the storm. He's a very high-paced, high-octave, high-motored fighter, so he's definitely going to come out swinging. And he lands a lot of his shots. He's very accurate with his punches, and he's got the huge size advantage over Frankie Edgar. So Frankie Edgar tries to take him down. I would even say Ben Henderson has the advantage in the ground game too. So there you have it. I'm gonna say that Ben Henderson's gonna beat Frankie Edgar in Japan. Rampage over Bader. Chuck Congo over Mark Hunt. Shields over Akiyama. And Joe Lozon over Anthony Pettis. There you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. I know this was a long video, but I'm up to 15 minutes now, so I want to take advantage of the time I got on here. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the UFC card. Thanks, guys.